Imagine being cast out of society, not once, but twice, forced to leave everything behind because of your violent temper. Most people would give up, but not Erik the Red. He didn't just survive exile, he built a new world. So, take a seat, because here comes history. Born into trouble, Erik Thorvaldsson, later known as Erik the Red, for both his striking head hair and his fierce, fury temper, was born around 950 AD in the wild, unforgiving lands of Norway. But from the very beginning, his path in life seemed destined for conflict. His father, Thorvald Asvaldsson, lived by the sword and paid the price. After killing a man, Thorvald was declared an outlaw and forced into exile. In Viking society, exile was no small punishment. To be cast out was to lose everything: your land, your family ties, and your place among your people. Survival became a personal battle. So Thorvald gathered his family, boarded a ship, and sailed west to Iceland, a distant and rugged frontier where exile and adventurers tried to start anew. But peace did not follow them. Erik inherited his father's restless spirit. He grew up in Iceland surrounded by harsh winters, rocky soil, and a culture where disputes were often settled with steel. As a young man, Erik found himself in the middle of violent quarrels, fueled by his explosive temper. Eventually, during a bitter feud, Erik killed a man. Icelandic law was clear and uncompromising: kill and face exile. So once again, following in his father's footsteps, Erik the Red became an outlaw. For 3 long years he would be banished, forced to leave everything behind. But while others might have been broken by this, Erik saw his exile differently. For him, it was a chance to chase something bigger, a land of his own, discovering Greenland. Erik didn't spend his year of exile hiding in caves or cursing his fate. No. True to his bound nature, he saw exile as a reason to explore. Humors whispered by sailors spoke of a land far to the west of Iceland, a land that had been sighted but never truly claimed, a land shrouded in fog and mystery. To many, such tales were foolish, but to Erik, they were irresistible. Determined, he gathered a small crew and set out into the unknown. The voyage was nothing short of treacherous. Without maps, they relied on the stars, the sun, and their instincts. Frozen winds bit at their skin. Massive waves tossed their ship like a toy. Icebergs, silent and deadly, drifted through the seas. Each day was a fight for survival. But Erik pressed on, and eventually, against all odds, they found it. Greenland. At first glance, it was anything but green. Jagged cliffs loomed over rocky beaches. Glaciers stretched for miles. Bitter winds howled through the empty fjords. Yet, Erik saw something others might have missed: potential. He spent his exile exploring the coast, mapping its twists and turns, and imagining what could be. There were grassy meadows tucked away in sheltered valleys, streams of clear water, and pastures for animals. When his sentence ended, Erik returned to Iceland, not with tales of failure, but with a bold vision. He spoke passionately about the new land, calling it Greenland. A clever marketing move. He reasoned that if the name sounded appealing, more settlers would be eager to join him. And he was right. His reasoning was cunning. If the land sounded pleasant, more settlers would follow, and settlers meant power. It is easy to admire Erik's boldness from afar, but imagine standing in his boats for a moment, exile, isolated, surrounded by frozen seas and unknown dangers. Turning back would have been simple, yet he pushed forward. What about you? Faced with the same brutal choice between giving up or venturing deeper into the unknown, Would you have dared to keep sailing? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd really like to know how many of you would chase the horizon, just like Erik did. The Greenland colony. In 985 AD, Erik gathered a fleet, 25 ships, filled with families, farmers, craftsmen, and adventurers, set sail under his command. Each person hoped for a fresh start and a share in this promised land. But Greenland, true to its nature, did not welcome them kindly. Violent storms battered their ships, ice clogged the sea routes. By the time they reached the Iceland shores, only 14 ships remained. The losses were devastating. Lives, supplies, and dreams sank beneath the waves. Yet Erik remained steadfast. The survivors established two key settlements, Eastern Settlement and Western Settlement. This would become the heart of the Norse Greenland for generations to come. Life was harsh. The soil was rocky and thin. Crops grew only in the brief summers. Winters were deadly cold, often cutting them off completely from the outside world. But they adapt. The settlers built homes from turf and stone, raised sheep and cattle, and hunted seals and caribou. Erik led them with firm authority, settling disputes, organizing defenses, and host grand feasts in his great hall. In many ways, Erik became the king of this frozen realm. His vision and leadership gave the colony hope and unity. Greenland, against all odds, became thriving Norse outpost. Tragedy and legacy. But no kingdom, no matter how remote, can resist the winds of change forever. As Europe embraced Christianity, missionaries arrived even in distant Greenland. Erik, loyal to the old Norse gods, rejected the new faith. This refusal split his household. His wife converted and built Greenland's first church. His children, including his bold son Leif Erikson, followed her example. Erik stood apart, a symbol of the old ways in the land slowly turning toward the new. Then fate played its final hand. Leif prepared a voyage to explore lands further west, lands we know as a part of North America. Erik, still adventurous, intended to go with him, but on the day of departure, as he rode down to the shore, his horse slipped and threw him violently to the ground. For Erik, deeply superstitious, this was no accident. He took it as omen and stayed behind. Leif sailed on and made history. Erik remained in Greenland. Not long after, around 1003 AD, Erik the Red died. His passing marked the end of an era. Without his strength and guidance, the Greenland colonies began to decline. Isolation, harsh winters, and changing trade routes slowly choked the settlements. Over centuries they faded into legend. Unstoppable spirit. Still, Erik's spirit proved harder to erase. His daring voyage inspired the legacy of Norse exploration. Greenland remained a key Norse settlement for hundreds of years. His son's journey to North America became part of the saga of Viking bravery. And Erik himself, brutal, violent, and bold, remained a symbol of what it meant to defy the odds. He was no saint. His hands were stained with blood, and his name inspired both fear and respect. But he was a visionary. He turned exile into empire. He caved the kingdom from the ice. Erik the Red story is proof that history isn't shaped only by the wise and the peaceful. Sometimes it is written by those who refuse to accept defeat, by the fierce, the stubborn, and the unstoppable. Exiled, but unstoppable. If this story pulled you in, and you want more hidden chapters from history, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Got a strange event, secret project, or forgotten place you think we should cover next? Drop in the comments. I'm always reading. Thanks for watching, and just as you took the seat, now you take the story with you. Bye!